Cheshire's Silk 106.9.
Good evening, and if you're watching this or you are listening to this wherever you are on a Friday night, this is the Silk Sport Friday Night Football Club with Mike and Scott. Scott, evening, mate. How's things?
Yeah, things are good. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Mate, I don't know about you, but I can't control the excitement. We are less than 24 hours away from the return of football after what feels like 2 years of, will it be on, won't it be on? I'm so excited, mate. Are you ready for the start of the football season?
I can't wait. And the great thing is, I was actually going to have to miss the first game because of no childcare for my daughter.
What?
But I found childcare, so I'm going to be there on Saturday. So it's great.
So obviously, this weekend is iconic in relation to we've gone through COVID-19. We've had season stop-starts, curtailments. We've had points per game frustrations. And we've now seen, I suppose, the back end of COVID-19. But it's even bigger because after almost 600 days, as Silkman football fans ourselves, we have gone through hell like many people, seeing our club fall to pieces and then be rebuilt. Looking at Macclesfield FC for a moment, this is an emotional weekend, mate.
It's easily the biggest game in our history. The first ever competitive game. I know we've played friendlies, but the first actual game in a league. You know, the stadium looks amazing. Hopefully, we're going to have a 2,000 there on Saturday. But we've sold 1,100 season tickets, and the absolute response from the fans has been fantastic. So, do you know what? It's going to be a great day.
And the thing is, Scott, when we look at what's happened to the football club briefly, Rob Smethurst is coming in. The legend that is Robbie Savage, a Welsh international, is on board as director of football. As fans, we're over the moon and we are so thankful to the owner for bringing the club back. But the special thing for me is Danny Whittaker's appointment as manager.
I think, Danny Whittaker is, he's the magic man. I don't know how much he's going to play this season, but he's Macclesfield through and through. If it's not John Askey, it's Danny Whittaker, as far as
Absolutely.
I'm concerned.
And let's look at, there's a lot of talk has gone off about the building of the leasing.com stadium. I was there on Tuesday evening for the game against FC United of Manchester. And I have to say, the stadium looks phenomenal. The bar 27 is out of this world. The gym is almost built. So much happening off the pitch, but the talking now stops. It is now down to talking on the pitch. Pre-season, they've played 11 games. They've won 4, they've drawn 4, they've lost 3, to my understanding. The 3 defeats, I was there on Tuesday night against FC United, bar 3 players, they were trialists. The other 2 defeats come against Chester, who are a huge side, playing in the Vanarama National League, and local rivals Buxton, who have got a phenomenal wage budget. How do you assess Macclesfield FC's pre-season?
I think fantastic. And being at the fans forum on Monday night, both Danny, Ed, and Bandy, they've all said that pre-season's been amazing. They've all got together, and pre-season's about fitness and finding your first 11. And the fact that we played some really tough teams, Ashton United, we played and drawn. We played Stockport County, even though it were the youth team, but Stockport County are still an elite team.
Absolutely.
And I was there at the Buxton game as well, and Buxton played very, very well. We got to play some football during that game as well, and we didn't do ourselves any disfavour throughout that game at all. So I think overall, pre-season has been very good, and I'm pretty sure we're going to put out a strong 11 on Saturday.
And I think the big thing, Scott, for me is the fact that not only has Danny Whittaker gone from being the only signing the club had, Rocco Fragapane is back. He was part of the previous setup of the football club, which I think is a fantastic move by Danny Whittaker. But also between Danny, Bandy, Ed, the coaching team, Robbie Savage, they've pulled together a squad of players who I think are exciting. And for me, one name that stands out is Eddie Maiko. I think he's a phenomenal player from the highlights I've seen.
Likewise. It's amazing at this level because we got Kieran Kennedy that's back in our central defender who's got years of experience in both the high and non-league, and also he's been in the league as well. So I think Cameron having experience and guys like Eddie and I think overall, I don't know. I think we're looking really good, especially for me in the defence. This is where you're going to have to.
Yeah, that's been the impressive thing for me, because I think defensively, my concern when you build a new side is there's not that that collectiveness, that gelling, that bonding spirit between the players. Because ultimately, you've took a squad of 20 individuals, put them into a football club, and ultimately you've got to build a side with that are gelled, that are unified, that can understand each other's positioning. What are you good at? What am I good at? I know for a fact that as a striker, you want the ball in your chest or in your feet. I don't want to be lumping the ball over the top, putting it in behind defenders, because that's not your game. So not only has Danny Whitaker and Bandy and the team had to build a side, but they've also had to quickly understand how each of the individuals play. And I have to say, I think they've done, I'm not blowing smoke up the backside, but I think they've done a great job gelling this team. And don't get me wrong, the season will be a different test of pre-season because there's something to play for. But on the outside looking in at the early stages, can we be anything but excited?
I mean, the teams we played in pre-season, majority were all better than us.
Yeah.
And we showed how good we were against those kind of teams. So, not giving any credit to who's going to be in the Northwest Counties Premier Division. But if we're playing like that against better teams, I think the world's our oyster, my friend.
And to be honest with you, Scott, I don't personally, and I'm trying to remove my Macclesfield FC head and put on my football pundit head and be right. When I look at this league, who can I see challenging for the top positions? Who can I see down at the bottom? I can't see past Macclesfield FC. And that's no disrespect, because I think we'll look at the fixtures in a minute. But when you look at some of the sides in there are some good sides that play at Northwest Counties level.
Yeah, and to be honest, I can't see past Mac FC either. I can't. Congleton Town are probably the nearest we're going to get to, I think, through a challenge. Just by they've signed Pope, they've signed Gary Roberts. People who've been in the league for many seasons kind of know the league. I know they're kind of getting in their upper 30s now, but they could still do a job at that level. But outside of that, I'm not sure. I just think the amount of fans we're going to have in there as well, and the size of our club. It says we're bigger than the Northwest Counties Premier Division. I know we've got to prove it on the pitch as well, but as it is at the minute on paper, we should be walking the league. And I hope that's not the kiss of death.
If it is, I'm coming back to you at the end of the season, mate. So let's look at tomorrow then. So Macclesfield FC's first ever game in history will be an iconic day. It's a 3:00 kickoff. It's the leasing.com stadium. Danny Whitaker will lead the Sultan out for the very first time. And in fairness to him, the very first time as the actual manager, not a caretaker, not a stand-in, and the opposition is Burscough. We don't know massive amounts about Burscough. We know they had a bit of a mixed season in the season that was curtailed.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday night, it's the first away trip against Winsford United. So 2 games where Macclesfield FC will be able to get their teeth into, this is what the Northwest Counties are about. How do you see tomorrow going?
Personally, Burscough, as you said, they've not had a great really run of seasons the last few seasons. Moving to Tuesday, Winsford have had poor seasons as well overall. They're not the teams that are challenging at the top of the Northwest Counties Premier Division. So I think 2 opening games of Burscough and then Winsford. I don't think we could have had a better opening 2 games.
And I think, am I right in saying, Scott, that it's got to be 6 points from 6?
It has to be. I think, the expectation, and again, the expectation from the club, I was there at the Fans Forum on Monday, is to win the league. And it's also to win the FA Vars. As yes. Robbie says, why not? Why not?
And obviously, when we talk about the Fans Forum that happened in the week, it's great that the owner, the director of football, the management team want to be a collective with the fans. This is our town. It's our club. And the ethos from the football club itself is that unity between the two. How was the Fans Forum in the week?
Do you know what? I think there was so much positivity around on it. There was, what came out for me is the openness and the transparency between the owners and the fans, and something we never got in the past. If I had a problem, I could probably go up and talk to Robbie myself, which was amazing. But the overall togetherness of Robbie, of Rob, of also Danny, Ed was there as well, along with Bandy. It was just as one. We were there as one. And I think the expectation moving forward is they want us to be the 12th man. So we want the Macclesfield fans to be the 12th man. So I feel that togetherness has never been more apparent at the club from my point of view.
And this is great signs, because obviously we're not going to talk about the past. This is all about Macclesfield FC moving forward. And the one thing that the club has had over the past year, I suppose, is a unity amongst the fans, that they are behind whoever wears the blue strip on the pitch. But let's move to the North West Counties League itself then. So tomorrow is the opening day of the North West Counties League season. There's some great fixtures out to start with. To run through the fixtures, Ashton take on Wythenshawe, Avro take on Padiham, Charnock Richards and Winsford could be a great game. Earlham take on Litherland. Litherland have struggled in the past couple of years. Maybe this is the season they turn a corner. Longridge against Congleton is the tie of the opening weekend, as far as I'm concerned. We've obviously spoken about Mac and Burscough. Prestwich Hayes, who have come into the league, take on Steve Wilkes and Northwich Victoria. Runcorn Town and Barnoldswick, Squiresgate and Lower Beck. And another one that we need to keep our eyes on is Vauxhall Motors and AFC Liverpool. For me, the tie of the weekend is Longridge against Congleton. As you've just said, Scott, Congleton had a great run in the bars last season. Richard Duffy stepped up from assistant to manager. And my goodness, has he pulled in some favours in footballing world. Popey signs. Gary, is it Roberts?
Gary Roberts, yes.
Gary Roberts has signed, played for Chester. Two exceptional players. And from my communication with the football club itself, Gary Roberts is one player they are very excited about. What are you looking forward to from the fixtures this weekend?
For me, I'm really interested what Northwich Victoria do at Prestwich Hayes. You know, I've followed the Vics for many years, obviously to the demise as well of the Vics.
Yeah.
So, you know, the fact that we're competing back with them is very exciting. But yeah, for me, it's certainly Prestwich Hayes versus Northwich Victoria. Right.
See, I went with Longridge and Congleton. The reason being, Longridge were a side that I saw play 1874 Northwich, who have now been obviously promoted. They were an exceptional side. They were strong. They were physical. They were quick going forward. But as you rightly said, Congleton have added quality. For me, they've made the two signings of the summer with Popey and Gary Roberts. But for me, I see Longridge and Congleton as the winner of that will be Macclesfield's closest rival.
Wow, that's very early to talk like that, Michael.
You know when you say things and they come out your head and you think to yourself, what on earth are you saying, Mike? What are you saying? But I just get this feeling that those two sides, and that's no respect because I am a massive Steve Wilkes fan. I'm a massive Northwich Victoria fan. And the club, the way it's run and everything, are phenomenal. But I just wonder whether or not the two signings that Congleton have made have just edged them in front of Vicks at this moment.
Yeah, no, potentially. But then there's also that adjustment period. Will Tom Pope and Gary Roberts fit in with a team, let's be honest, are a lot lower down than they're used to?
Yeah.
These pitches and these stadiums, as we'll find out with Macclesfield as well, they're not League Two stadiums. They're not League Two pitches. And this isn't necessarily going to be pretty football. So I think it's an adjustment. I think they may be really good. They may score X amount of goals a season. You know, Pope or Roberts might get 30 a season. Then again, they might find the adjustment quite difficult. So that's going to be the deal breaker from my point of view.
Yeah, and I think for me, the other one that stands out in there is the two new sides with Vauxhall Motors, who had a phenomenal season in the season that was curtailed. AFC Liverpool again stepping up. Vauxhall Motors could surprise a few people this season.
Yeah, Vauxhall Motors have done it in the past. They've been up there. Obviously, they've also had their struggles. But I think they're certainly ones which people aren't really talking about, but should. AFC Liverpool are certainly the team that people have been mentioning. And I think, obviously, because they've got Liverpool in the name, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do well. But I think they've looked really good in pre-season.
Absolutely. So if I was to put you on the spot...
Which you are going to do, right?
Which I'm going to do, because it would be very rude not to. If you were to pick three sides that you expect to win this weekend, which three would be your pick?
I'd pick Mac. I've got to go for Mac.
Yeah,
I would pick
AFC
Liverpool, and I would pick Congleton.
Interesting. See, Congleton, if I was a betting man, Congleton and Longridge would be the one I would stay away from. I would be with you. I would go with Mac to beat Burscough. I'd go with Northwich Victoria to beat Prestwich Hayes. I think they'll have a good start, even though I know they've got a couple of players missing. And again, I would go with AFC Liverpool because I think they will be one of the sides that, if anybody, to me, when we look at the Silk Sport teams, as I call them, your Macs, your Congletons, your Northwich Victoria, I would love to see those as the top three fighting out for the league. But I think AFC Liverpool could upset the apple cart.
Yeah, and I also believe that money talks. So, we're talking about teams that may have a little bit more behind them. We know that Mac have a little bit behind them. We know that Congleton, by their signings, have some behind them. And imagine AFC Liverpool also have some behind them. So I think generally, I think money will talk. Money talks at every level, doesn't it? And I think that's certainly going to be the case this season. Mac are going to have a strong following. Congleton, I think, are going to have a strong following. I also think that AFC Liverpool naturally will have a strong following. So it's going to be very, very interesting.
Now, one of the reasons we decided to put together this Silk Sport Friday Night Football Club was because we are both of the impression that a lot of the time we talk about the Premier League, we talk about the Championship, Sky Bet League One, League Two, the Vanarama National League, and obviously the North West Counties, because our club is in the North West Counties. But we are quite keen to give a voice and give a name to some of our local sides around Cheshire at grassroots level that may not get that support, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, having more focus on teams maybe in the Cheshire League, like, for example, Mac Reserves are going to be in the Cheshire League Division 2 this season. And it's something that, I'll be honest, I've never looked at in my life. I've always looked at the Cheshire Premier Division, but I've never gone that far down. And I found it really interesting over the last few months, just kind of digging around and seeing the non-league pyramid, and as it gets more complicated as it gets to the bottom, let's be honest. But I found that quite fascinating over the last year or so. But also Mac FC ladies, they've now got a team. They're having friendlies and that kind of thing, and I'm sure they'll start the league shortly. So I think it's absolutely important for that these teams get some exposure and that people start talking about and paying attention to these teams. Because let's be honest, if nothing else, they're just the future. They may be further down the leagues, but a lot of times they're the people that Mac level leagues are looking at, thinking, where's the talent coming from? And Robbie Savage would attest to looking at these lower leagues and picking out some of the best players. And I think it's really important for these guys to actually get something attention-wise.
Absolutely. And you've just mentioned there that obviously Macclesfield FC's reserves are going to start in the Cheshire Football League 2. Ed Haslam, I've interviewed him on my Saturday Silk Sports show. What a great guy he is. He's obviously got experience of the Cheshire Football League with Knutsford. And if you just look through, do you know what I mean? You are my Cheshire Football League expert. You will know a lot more about this with me being from Nottinghamshire, not Cheshire directly. But again, three leagues plus the reserve league. So the Prem League 1, League 2. Mac FC starting all the way down in League 2. But in the Prem, we're talking about sides like Altringham's reserve teams. This is a Vanarama National League football club. Their reserve side, Middlewich Town. You've got Knutsford FC. You've got Lostock Garland. Some big sides in the Cheshire League. Tell us a little bit about the Cheshire Football League from your understanding. And what would you expect? Because Ed Haslam's got a job to do to get them from League 2 to the Prem.
Yeah. From what I know about the Cheshire Football League, I know how good guys like Knutsford are, guys like Edgerton are, FC St Helens are in there as well, and obviously there's St Helens team in the upper non-league divisions as well. Altrincham reserve team, I think again being the reserve team of the main team, I think they kind of go about it as in they're the kind of younger players a little bit. They're playing in that, so they're not just putting their 30-year-olds that don't make the first team in the reserve team to trying to get them promoted. This is a lot of these teams actually make it like a bit of a feeder, so they try and get their reserve players in the first team, which I know for a fact that's something the Mac are planning to do. Not just playing people who are on the fringe, actually playing young, hungry kids who want to be in the first team. So for me, they're the teams that you need to watch out for. But the thing about the Cheshire League is, I followed Poynton with John Hudson was there last season. He's now at the Cheadle Heath Nomads reserve team. But there is a lot of competition, a lot of rivalry you wouldn't think of. Like the Poynton Knutsford rivalry is something which is really big in that division.
We love a rivalry, don't we?
We don't, yeah. Because a lot of the Ed's also been at Poynton, so a lot of the things were there as the Poynton players went to Knutsford. So that obviously created that kind of rivalry, and that's what's good at that league. But there's some really good players in these Cheshire leagues, and let's remember this is only 2 leagues below the Northwest Counties Premier Division. So actually, it's not too different really from some of the lowers in the Northwest Counties Premier in Division 1. So these players are still going to be quite good. May not be on the level of what we're used to in the past, but we're going to find some absolute stars in this league.
And I think that's the thing, because this weekend, obviously, we've got 5 fixtures in each league. So just to run through them, in the Prem, we've got Billings taking on Alties Reserves, Broadheath take on Middlewich Town, Edgerton take on FC St Helens, We've got Garswood United against Knutsford, Lostock Graham against AFC Knowsley. Then you go into League Two, Winnington Avenue against Windle Labour. You've got Cheadle Nomad Reserves, who obviously you now have contact with their management there, take on Blacon Youth. You've got Denton Town and Holmes Chapel, Malpass and Newton Athletic, Vulcan versus Withenshaw as amateurs. And then League Two, this is where it gets interesting because for the first time ever, Ed Haslam will lead Macclesfield FC's reserves away at St Helens Town's reserves. You've got Goulburn Sports and Hertford FC. You've got Nantwich Town's reserves, again, another massive club with their reserve side against Ashton. Upton take on Sandwich United reserves, and you've got Westdids and Chorlton's reserves taking on Runcorn Town. A lot of big name clubs in the Cheshire Football League that obviously when you have a reserve side and you're at a North West Counties level, your reserves are going to start at a lower standard. But ultimately, there are some big individual clubs in here that, as you said, are giving opportunities to young, talented individuals to learn their way in football.
Yeah, it's certainly not. If you think of someone right down in Division 2 of the Cheshire League, you'd expect, you think, oh, that's just going to be pony football, as you'd say. But actually, these guys are hungrier because they want to make it into their first team. You know, the Runcorn Town that's in Division 2, that's actually the Runcorn Town development team. You know, and some of these reserves teams. So these are the guys that are fighting for places and want to make it in their first team. So these guys are going to be hungrier. And I think there's going to be some feisty affairs along the way.
And as you say, rivalry is why we love football. Doesn't matter whether you go and watch Broadheath or you're a Longridge Town fan or you're a Hertford FC fan. We love our football clubs because we intend to live in the area. So what we want to do on this podcast is give the opportunity for these sides to get a bit of publicity, to have a voice. And our aim is to be joined each and every week by a special guest who will represent one of our Cheshire Football League clubs to talk about their club, their experiences. But because football is changing, it's dynamic, and it's something that we love, we also want to look at women's football because I've got my past is I was previously manager of Mansfield Town's ladies team. I had a short stint at Alfreton Town ladies team. Women's football is a growing game. We've just seen Team GB get to the quarterfinals in the Olympics. Ellen White played at Notts County, Man City, a phenomenal player. And we have local women's football teams, whether it's Macclesfield Town's ladies, whether it's Macclesfield FC women, there are a lot of great women's sides. So we want to give them a platform, mate.
Absolutely. Sarah Carbert's just gone to Macclesfield FC. Vicky Jepson, now coaching at Tottenham. She's been at Mac in the past as well. Obviously, she was the Liverpool manager as well. I know Laura Garner. She's been around kind of like the Crew and some of the local teams in the Lancashire area. So there are some really good players. And, you know, I've seen and I know some of these girls personally. And actually, the women's team's really exciting for the point fact that the joy and emotion, and they're doing it on absolutely no budget. So I think it's massively important that these get a showcase.
Absolutely. So the whole thing about Scott and I putting together Silk Sports Friday Night Football Club is to talk in more detail about football around Cheshire, is to give the local sides of Cheshire a platform to talk about, to come on. We welcome fans' input. We welcome football clubs' input. And each and every week, we will natter between ourselves about something completely different. And let's be honest, we ain't football experts. We're football fans. But I like to think, Scott, that we've got a little bit of knowledge about the game.
Or we wing it really well. One of the two.
Definitely. And wing it's probably going to be our slogan. Sport Friday Night Football Club, winged by Mike and Scott. So again, we will bring this to you each and every Friday evening. We will look back at the previous week's football. We will talk about the up and coming games, and we'll have a little bit of fun along the way, and hopefully be joined by a few amazing special guests. Before I let you go, Scotty, one question. Score prediction. Leasing.com, 3 o'clock kickoff. Macclesfield FC back in business, mate, against Burscough.
4-1. 4-1, Mac. 4-1.
Nice.
I think we're going to go out the gates. I think you're not going to see us coming.
And am I right in saying that would it be fair to say that it might be even Stevens at half time? I think the first half could be a cagey affair based on this is what counts. This is where all the points come from. This is the start of the Robbie Savage venture of you will win the FA Bars, you will win the league. Could there be nerves?
I think some of these guys are going to be playing in front of 1,000 odd people. Some of these are going to be used to playing in front of 50 people. So there's going to be nerves. There's absolutely going to be nerves. But I think they're actually going to. I think that's actually going to help them play. I think them nerves are going to push them.
Final word from me, Scott, is that any Siltman fans who are watching this, who are going to the game tomorrow is iconic. It is the biggest game of our lives as football fans. Whatever happens after tomorrow will always be remembered, but nothing will be remembered as much as the 3 o'clock kickoff at theleasing.com. Get behind the Siltman. Let's get 3 points in the bag. This is the start. One day, Scotty, you and I will sit here and we will be talking about Mac FC returning to the Football League. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've got to get there first.
That's the goal. But what we need to concentrate on is each game as they come and then go from there.
Absolutely. This has been Silk Sports Friday Night Football Club with Mike and Scotty. Episode 1. We will see you next week. Ta-da!
Your station.